Hey everybody, glad to be here with you today. My name is Leslie Sansone Williams. I am the author of Legal Break-In and the creator of the Paralegal Inner Circle class. So a little while after I end this live video, I'll put a info in the description box regarding both of those items, okay? By the way, the registration for the Paralegal Inner Circle class is open now. It's only open about 3 times a year. It's open now. It's been open since the 4th of September, and registration will close at midnight on the 11th. So be sure to check that out, okay? They're on demand. It's an on-demand class of 38 to 39 videos regarding the paralegal field and several aspects of it. So let's get started on this particular live video. This is called How Much is Too Much Work for the Paralegal or the Legal Assistant. Both titles are interchangeable, by the way, if you're new to this career, okay? So, first job I had was hired to work as a receptionist / legal secretary. Also, errand runner. I would file everything and I answered most of the phones, although my paralegal colleague helped me with the phones, but I answered, I would say 75% of them. But if the phones were going crazy, she would help out definitely, because it was only the two of us as office people in the law firm with 3 attorneys. So one attorney was bringing me up to speed, and he was, new to the partnership, and he wanted to work with me. I was open to that. The paralegal was afraid of it because she felt too much might be put on me. But I had just closed my own business down where I had to do everything. So I wasn't afraid of learning and afraid of jumping in. And all of this was new. The language was new. The legalese that they use in a law firm new. The documents were new. I'd never seen them. The only legal documents I'd ever seen in my life, maybe a contract or the closing on my house and all of the real estate documents. But other than that, not a whole lot. Had not been embroiled in a lawsuit in my life at that point, so or been involved in any way where I would see legal documents. So I jumped in. And that both the paralegal and the attorney took me under their wing. But I have to tell you, it was a lot to handle. My office skills were top notch, where I had worked in the marketing department in a large corporation in New Jersey. I had run my own business, so I knew how to pull it all together and jump in, but this was totally new. So I'm where I was where you are now if you're new to this field. So don't be so afraid of it. You just have to jump in and have a strong work ethic and do a lot of homework on your own too. And that's why I created that class, Paralegal Inner Circle class, so it would give you the edge when you're going into this field. All right, so I had one attorney that I really worked for. The other 2 attorneys worked with the paralegal, and she did most of their work. So that was a huge blessing to me. And so he would give me some things and he would say, take your time, do this. And then I would ask her the paralegal questions. She would show me on the computer where everything was. I'd ask her questions about the parts of a legal document and she would explain it to me. And she was very protective over me because she knows that if you dump too much on somebody, they're not going to stay. And here comes my case in point. That when you join a law firm, and they are just dumping on you. They put too many attorneys on you. They put more than 2 on you. And when you're starting out, it's very difficult to work for 2 attorneys. As a seasoned veteran, at one law firm, they put 3 full-time attorneys on me and a part-timer. Way too much. Even I handled it, but it was not a job I was enjoying going to because of the amount of work and the there's so many personality differences between all four attorneys. And so one attorney left. That brought it down to three full timers, and one of the full timers really wasn't generating a lot of work. So I had two full time attorneys that I ended up working for in the end, which was good. Be protective over that with yourself. When you're in an interview, you have to know, this is one of the questions to ask: how many attorneys will I be working with or for? Sometimes law firms will want to keep that hidden. This goes along with meeting the attorneys you'll be working for. Never take a job unless you've met them. Okay? It's very important. You need to get the vibe. What vibes are you getting from these attorneys when you meet them? All right? And what's the vibe you're getting when you walk through the office from the employees there? Did they introduce you to any? They might not at the first go around because they're not sure if they want to hire you. They might not show you your space where you'll be working until the day you start. But if they offer you the job, I would say, before I accept, could I see where I would be working? And if it's an office space, like, you're not usually going to have your own office. I have to break that to you. But if it's an area where it is so noisy you can't think, then rethink it. That's a red flag. I've been in that position where they had me not even in a cubicle, but I was in an open space that they plopped a desk there, and then the copy machines and people were walking through, coming back from lunch, and it was very disturbing. When you're trying to concentrate and you have clients in the conference room waiting for you to get documents done, all that nonsense going on, it's very difficult to get your work done. So I want you to think, because you have not been involved in that type of office, the legal office, so you won't know what's going on there. But here are some of the tasks that I really feel this is overload. When they want you to be a full-time legal secretary, but they also want you to be the receptionist, and they want you to file the documents, and they want you to greet the customers, and they want you to troubleshoot on the phone. That's really difficult to do. When you're troubleshooting, time flies, and before you know it, the day's done, and you haven't done some of the tasks that have been assigned to you. So how can you get a document filed that day if the phone keeps ringing off the hook? It's really almost impossible if it's a busy office that gets a lot of phone calls. So, another thing to ask if they're wanting you now, as a senior paralegal, as a veteran paralegal, I would answer calls coming from the receptionist. She would forward calls to me, or he would, because I'm working on a case and it's a client with that case. And that's different. Almost every paralegal has to do that, take calls for their attorney. But being the receptionist is taking all the calls. So think about that when they're putting receptionist duties on you and legal secretarial duties. If you think that, like, you're a major multitasker and you can get all this done and you work very quickly, then go for it. But when you have to do the legal secretarial work, answer the phones, greet people, troubleshoot questions, and let's see what else. I had to also run errands, meaning I bought office supplies and I bought snacks for the firm. So maybe once a month, I would try to do it that way and buy enough for a month. But once a month or once every 3 weeks, I would have to go and spend, a few hours out of the office. I would come back and there would be a ton of work waiting for me. So really look at what is it, dissect and question. What is it? What are all the duties that they will be asking you to do? You should have these questions written down when you go into the interview, and you should check them off as they're being answered. I would make sure that the questions you ask first are about the law firm, and maybe they already answered those for you. And then you can go to your questions that you have. How many attorneys? If you're interviewing at first with the administrator, sometimes They know, and sometimes they don't know the answers to these questions. In that case, when you meet with the attorney or attorneys, you have to ask them, and don't be shy about that. But the first job was not overwhelming, but close. And after being there for 6 months, at which time they had promised, the managing partner promised that I would be looked at for, reviewed, and if they were happy with my work, I would get a raise. And I was I was paid very low. That's why I was looking for that raise. And when the seventh month rolled around, I hadn't heard anything. I started questioning, and then the managing partner acted like that he never said it, and he was not trying to be mean. He honestly did not write it down, did not remember. So that kind of was irritating, to say the least. That was a letdown because I needed a raise in order to make it worth my while to drive 40 miles one way. So I knew I had done a good job. I had already worked 3 trials in an entry-level position. So I decided to put my notice in, but I got a job first in a personal injury law firm, workers' compensation. So off I went. And I think that you have to protect yourself. Don't overload yourself because you'll feel defeated. The learning curve is steep enough. That's why I created the Paralegal Inner Circle class to make that overload seem less for you. That you'll get into the lingo that I use in my videos. You'll get used to hearing that. You'll look up words. You'll know how to do a proper cover letter, and your resume will be enhanced by the cover letters I teach you how to do, and I teach you 2 of them. And then I go into dissecting job ads on my favorite website for jobs, and much more than that. I want to give you legal knowledge. I give you links to free training in addition to what I provide to you so that you can, beef up your arsenal. And that when you start that first job, it won't be so daunting. Okay, you will have the edge more so than I ever did. So I wish this training was around 28 years ago when I started. Now, you need to watch my video, why I removed mention of higher education from my, I think I say resume. So look that up on this channel, okay? And if you haven't watched that video, watch it, because this is a hot topic. And one that may be disconcerting to you, may be a letdown, because I'm saying remove your higher education from your resume. But I go into the whys, okay? Let's see, what else can I tell you? The other thing I'm going to talk about in this particular video is billing. And what is that? Well, in some law firms, they will ask you to track your time when you're working on not clerical matters, not doing correspondence, simple correspondence, but when you're working on motions and notices and things that can be billed out for, meaning they'll bill out your time that you spent to the client. So, for instance, I'll make up an hourly rate. Maybe they'll bill out your time that you spent on creating a document, a legal document, at $65 an hour. Maybe it'll be lower. And why do law firms do this? Well, they know that the client will be happy by paying a lower rate for some of the duties, and that will sit very well with the client. But they also are able to recoup the money that they spend on your salary and benefits by charging the client for your work. See, so it's a business decision when attorneys bill out for your time. And that's not a crazy thing to do. That's a very wise business move. And you will have to track your time. I use just sheets that I would write down. I worked on this, and one of my law firms, it was tracking by like 2.5. I've spent like 15 minutes on a motion, that I created a motion. And it might be another document took you an hour or two. And so you mark that down, and then you have to put that info in special billing software. And I give you a link in my class for training for the Cadillac of billing software. Okay, so that is something that you should go through and learn if you take my class. But also, the attorneys may take their timesheets. That's what we call those sheets that we write down our time, or we might do it on the computer too. And they give you their timesheets, and they want you to put their stuff in the computer as well, into specialized software. And so that what happens with all that info? Well, towards the end of the month, the bookkeeper at the firm or the manager of the law firm will print out the bills, the statements that go to the clients. They'll print them out. We call them pre-bills. And then the attorneys look over their pre-bills. I would look over mine. They'll be looking over my pre-bills to see if they need to remove anything. Now, in some instances, the law firms will say, look, we expect you to bill out about 125 hours per month. And that's a quota they'll set for you. But let's say that one whole day you are just inundated with the phones, and you hardly had any time that you worked on legal documents or legal work. And you have to track that. You just have to write down, September 8th I worked, or September 10th. I worked all day, just answered phones like from blah, 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 no breaks, that type of thing. Because, attorneys are driven by, they debate, and they also are driven by evidence. And so I know that. And so I track what I'm working on at any given moment. I just write it down. I have a to-do list that I use. That's what I recommend. I have another thing I use that helps me monitor my cases. But for the duties I'm doing every day, I track what I'm doing. And I've had an attorney walk into my office and in a snarky way say, what have you been working on all day? As if I wasn't doing anything. And so I'm used to that. By that time, I had been in the legal field for years, And so I just said, you want to see my to-do list? And then the attorney said, no, don't need it. So it's important to track that. It's important not to be overloaded. Sorry, I missed your comment. I'll have to look at it later. It pops up and then it disappears. So I'll look at it when I'm done with this. Thank you so much. I want you to protect yourself at every instance. But as a newbie, legal assistant, paralegal, legal secretary, sometimes you don't know these things because you don't know this field. But you have to be careful that you're not overloaded. And it's the quickest way a law firm can chase somebody out of the firm. It is ridiculously stupid business practice to do this. Oh, I see. Okay, let's see. Yep. Yes. That one of the things to understand is that when people expect you to work 125, like bill out 125 to 140 hours per month, that when they get those draft bills, the draft statements to review before they send them out to the client, they may decide for whatever reason to reduce the amount of that bill. You know why? Because they're afraid the client's going to freak out. That's why. And so they start to feel insecure about, and it's legitimate time that the paralegal that you spent on there, and sometimes they delete their own time because they're afraid it's going to be too heavy-handed on the bill for the client. So do I agree with that? No. I mean, I feel like it's not a fair thing to the law firm, honestly, as a business, because they did spend the time, and you did too. So sometimes they'll delete your time, or they'll delete their own time. But because And they're under a quota too. If they're not the senior partner, the attorney will have a quota to meet as well. So you track how much, like when you get those pre-bills for your time, I would make sure that you have a copy of that so that you can say, well, I did meet my quota, but the time was taken off. And that is through no fault of your own. So I want you to remember these things as you go into the law firm, that these things can happen. It's operated, should be operated as a business. Sometimes the attorneys feel really goosey about billing out some of this time, and they just go, okay, let's delete that. And you have to go into the software and remove it. Okay, and then the bookkeeper or office manager, whoever's doing the bills, will then, have a final set of statements, bills to go out, and they go out to the clients. Sometimes even when they've deleted time, the clients will call up and be in a total tizzy over the amount that's being charged. Do I think it's fair? No. Yes, are there attorneys who are unethical? Yes. Yes. But I honestly didn't work for any of those attorneys. So I think, clients don't realize that in order to pull together a legal brief, it takes a lot of time to do that. There's research and all of that involved. So I wanted to just impart that to you today as far as how much is too much for the legal assistant paralegal. Be very aware of being overburdened. And for veterans watching this, you understand what I'm saying. If you've been in more than one job, or maybe the job that you're in, it's your first job, and it is that way right now. You're worth not being so stressed out that you bring it home with you. Speaking from experience, I've gotten out of my car at my house and so stressed out that I thought, no, can't keep doing this. And that meant that, yes, I would change my job. I would change the job, and it made me ask better questions in the interview. Can you know everything when you ask questions, and can you come away with everything and the truth all the time? No. But if you dig as an investigator nicely in the interview, because you're trying not to be snarky or overpowering in the interview, like, it's like Columbo going in, but that's okay to protect you. You're worth it. You are worth it. Every interview I've ever gone on, including those I didn't get the job for, taught me something. I went on one interview where I wanted to be more, from the first job. Before I landed my personal injury job in job number 2, I went on, a couple interviews, and one of them, this was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there were 2 partners that were interested in me, and one of them said, was interviewing me, and I said, I just want to do more substantive legal work. And he said, his partner came in and was very upbeat, his partner was, and he said, and the guy that interviewed me said, Leslie just wants to be the boss. And I really did not. That's not how I came across. That was his perception. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to work here. When I said, thank you for your time, but I don't think this is going to be a fit for either one of us. And I left. I wouldn't have to deal with them again. The other partner was super nice. But if I had to work with this other guy, he might become very afraid because I wouldn't hold back if he was snarky and disrespectful. And that was disrespectful, very disrespectful to me. And just because I owned my own business, there's nothing wrong with me wanting to be a boss, but I didn't want to be a boss in the law firm. So, when the cards are shown like that, as he showed his snarky cards, his sarcastic, disrespectful cards in an interview, you don't want to work there. The opening is there probably for a good reason, and they're looking for somebody else because the other person wanted to leave, and probably for that reason. Do I know that for sure? No. but pretty obvious. So I don't want you to convince yourself, oh, it'll be okay for me. It won't be. Look for a good place to work. You're not always able to ascertain what an attorney is like to work for, and he doesn't or she doesn't know you completely either. So it's a getting to know each other time, and most of the time it works out, sometimes it does not. So your investigation during the interview is everything. All right, so that's all for today. Thanks for your comments. I did get to read that. Finally it popped up again. It's just weird. But thank you for being here with me. And for anybody on the replay, remember to check out my website, lesliesansonewilliams.com. I'll put a link below. And there's lots of blog posts there that I have videos there that I've done live on Facebook, and they're part of a blog post. So there's also podcasts, linked to podcasts there on my website that you need to hear. Okay, so have a great Saturday, and I will talk to you in the next live. Okay, next week. Take care. Bye.